Hello. Welcome to another episode of Navigating Cancer Together. I am your host, Talaya Dendy. Navigating Cancer Together has something for everyone facing cancer. Why? Because everyone is different with different needs, beliefs, and perspectives. Thank you for joining us for this episode. I encourage you to open your minds and your hearts. Navigating Cancer Together is everywhere. Make sure to subscribe and follow the show to stay updated on our latest episodes. Listen on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or your preferred podcast app or platform. We have a very special guest joining us today, and she is here to talk about forgiveness and healing. But before I do an introduction, please keep this question in mind as you listen to the episode. Katharine has shared powerful insights on the how of forgiveness. What's one belief or understanding you previously held about forgiveness that was challenged or expanded by her perspective? And how might that shift influence your own approach to past hurts? Let me know by sending an email to nctpodcastfan@gmail.com, by commenting on this episode on Spotify. Also, you can leave responses on Navigating Cancers Together's LinkedIn page. I might read some of your responses in a future episode. Now, on to our special guest. Katharine Giovanni is an award-winning best-selling author, international speaker, and transformation mentor, and a proud stage 3 breast cancer survivor. With over 2 decades of intuitive experience, she guides others through life's most difficult chapters with compassion, clarity, and deep emotional insight. As a forgiveness coach, Katharine helps clients heal shame, guilt, and fear, empowering them to reclaim their strength and rewrite their stories. Her unique blend of past life insight and practical tools brings comfort and courage to those navigating breast cancer or supporting loved ones through it. Katharine's mission is to help others feel seen, heard, and whole. That is something that we all need. Katharine, thank you so much for joining us today, and welcome.
Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.
It's my pleasure, Katharine. Now, before we dive into what you're here to talk about today, I would love for the valued listeners to learn a little bit more about you. So, what is something interesting and unique about yourself that might surprise the listeners?
Well, the fact that I'm really intuitive and I kept it a secret for over 40 years. And I would give people intuitive messages, but you'd never know I was doing it because I used to mask the language until I finally came out of the intuitive closet about 4 years ago, as
Okay,
it were.
interesting. We'll talk more about that. Okay. And what is something that brings you genuine happiness and joy, Katharine?
Besides my 2 adult sons, I really think it is watching people light up when they hear my forgiveness method and know that there's a solution and there's hope. I legitimately love that. It happened to me recently on a podcast just a little while ago, and he was angry. And by the end of the podcast, he wasn't. And I can't tell you how much that brings me joy. I make people cry. I know I've done my job.
Cry in a good way.
Crying in a good way.
Yes. Thank you for sharing those interesting facts, Katharine. Now we're going to shift. You are a stage 3 breast cancer survivor. Please tell us more about your cancer journey and how intuition factored into it.
Well, this is an interesting story. Always listen to the little bird in your shoulder. It might save your life. Years ago in 2011, I believe it was, all of a sudden, I am very intuitive. And all of a sudden I hear you need to start jogging. And I'm looking up at the ceiling saying, you're crazy as a bed bug because I'm allergic to exercise and have been for many, many years. And so just the thought of telling me to jog was laughable, but I couldn't get it out of my head. You got to jog. You got to start running. You got to start running. So I gave in because anybody who's intuitive knows that the voice won't, excuse my language, but it won't shut up until you kind of do it. So I went to online and I did the Couch to 5K running program, which is still online today. And it's brilliant. It does exactly what you think it does. And it was hard and it was awful, but I did it. And eventually I ran a 5K and it took me months to do. But as I was learning how to jog, the weight started to come off. And in the beginning, I just attributed it to, well, I'm a couch potato, so obviously the weight's going to come off. But it started to really come off. And when you go from a 14, 16 waist down to an 8, you know something's wrong. And I knew it in the back of my mind that there was something terribly wrong. So the day before my birthday, I always do a self breast check every year on my birthday and usually at Christmas. Been doing it for years. And in the shower, I checked and there was a lump, plain as day. So I went to the doctor, and the fact that my gynecologist ran out of the room, and I mean ran, told me everything I needed to know because doctors don't usually run out of exam rooms to make a phone call for you to get a mammogram. And the radiology guy said my breasts were too dense and the mammogram didn't work. That would have been nice to know years ago, right? But we all knew the lump was there. And fast forward, the surgeon told me that if I hadn't taken up running exactly when I did, I would be dead. It was a very aggressive, fast growing 7 centimeter tumor that was on my left side in such a very strange place that the fat would have hidden it. Nobody would have ever found it because the mammograms didn't work and I'd be dead. So that's a very true story. And, it turned out to be stage 3 triple positive breast cancer. And I had 10 operations, chemotherapy of every color and sort, and radiation. I was sick for about 4 years.
Wow. That's intense. That is a
Yeah,
lot. That is a lot.
it
When
is.
that information was shared with you, Katharine, how were you feeling or what were you thinking in those moments?
When you first get the cancer word, you're numb because everybody thinks it's a death sentence. And my answer to everybody is don't die until you're dead. I'm serious. Don't die until you're dead. And you're numb. So I always made sure my husband was with me when I went to these things because the doctor's talking to you, but you don't really hear it. Remember the Peanuts in Charles Schultz Peanuts, and the teacher was always going wah 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 wah. Well, that's what you kind of hear.
Hmm.
So you're kind of numb, and it's like Elizabeth Kubler-Ross's, stages of grief. You go through all the stages. You go through anger, you go through grief, you go through you're upset. Everybody goes through the stages, and not necessarily in the order she lays them out for you. And eventually you get to acceptance, and you're like, okay. But back in 2012, terrorism, it's still a big thing today, but back then it was really a big thing. And I really attributed the cancer to terrorists, and I thought we're just not going to let the terrorists win. So I decided to fight. And yes, it was stage 3, but it's not a death sentence as it was today. And I combined Eastern and Western medicine, meaning I did what the doctors told me to, but I also did some stuff that the doctors didn't tell me to do. And that's why I'm probably still alive today.
What were some of those things?
Well, back in those days, I don't think they do it anymore, but you were sent to chemo class. I
Yeah,
wish I was kidding. I'm
you're
not.
not.
I'm not kidding.
I
And you're
went.
sent to this little room, and there's a nurse at the front, Nurse Ratchet, and all she did was tell me all the nasty things that were going to happen. She didn't tell me what I should be eating or thinking or doing. It was all the side effects, one after another. And you could see the color draining from most of the people's faces inside the room. And my brain snapped because I'm a very positive person. So I walked up to the front of the room and I purposely waited till I was like one of the last people. And I looked her dead in the eyes and said, I'm not going to get a lot of those. And I live in the South. So she looked at me and she said, oh, honey, you're going to get most of them. And I looked at her and said, no, I won't. Fast forward a year. I'm in treatment. I think I was in the middle of a chemo infusion or something like that. I was in the hallway on my way to the ladies' room and she stopped me and said, Mrs. Giovanni, I need to talk to you. All of a sudden, you're like a kid in grammar school and you think the teachers called you out or something. You're thinking, what did I do? Did I do something wrong? And she said, what are you doing? I'm like, ladies' room? I had no idea what she was talking about. She said, no, what are you doing? You're not as sick as you should be. And we're giving you some serious chemo. Why are you not as sick as you should be? And I smiled at her and I said, remember a year ago when I told you I wasn't going to get as sick as everybody else? It's a mindset. It's
Mhm.
staying positive in the face of adversity. She said, no, no, what are you doing? And I said, well, I'm eating clean and I'm doing all the other things that I'm supposed to be doing. But it's a mindset. I really don't think she believed me. To this day, I don't think she believed me. But my advice to all cancer patients, I know it's a dark, dark word. It's horrible. You've been given a stage. They've given you a shelf life. Don't believe them. Stay positive. Don't die until you're dead. Stay positive. Staying positive is like taking a shower. I kind of think you need to do it every day. And it's not a day-to-day thing when you have cancer. It's a minute by minute, second by second choice. They give you something like the neuroelastic shot, which pulls the red or white blood cells out of your bones. It is the most painful thing I went through, 100%. And how do you stay positive when you're just racked with pain? You do. It's a second by second choice because you don't want to let the terrorist win.
The key word here is choice.
It is a
You get to
choice.
decide. Yes, you get to decide no matter how bleak it is. You get to decide how you approach it and think about it. Thank you for those positive words, Katharine. You've navigated the intense physical and emotional landscape of stage 3 triple positive breast cancer. And that includes extensive treatment and surgeries, as you've mentioned. You are almost 13 years cancer free or will be. Looking back, Katharine, can you pinpoint a moment or a realization during your cancer journey where you understood the connection between unresolved emotions and your ability to heal and find peace?
During chemo class, it just everything snapped. Everything snapped. And it's almost like it came to me in a vision, and I completely understood that my mindset had a direct relation to my body. And I have science to prove it. I talk about this and when we talk about forgiveness. There's a study called the Japanese water study. It's done by Hasu, I can't pronounce his name, but if you Google Japanese water study, it'll probably be right there on the first page. It's really popular. And in the interest of time, I'll just say it fast. He took 2 containers of water. One container of water, all he did was talk to it. That's it. Beautiful, loving words. The other container of water, pure hate. The most hateful words he could think of, he said to this water. He then froze the water and he put it under a microscope. The water that he spoke love to had these gorgeous, gorgeous transformations, these crystal-like formations. They're right online. It's really cool. The water he spoke hate to had these black and brown, sick malformations that looked diseased. The human body is over 95% water. So when you're stuck in unforgiveness, when you're angry, you're bitter, you're resentful, you're thinking the why me's, what do you think you're doing to the water cells within your own body? So part of your health plan, if you have cancer, is to treat yourself nicely and change your self-talk because you want those water cells to help you and not hurt you. You want more of the good ones and less of the bad ones.
Thank you for sharing that, Katharine. And I love that analogy. What is your definition of forgiveness?
The thing about forgiveness is people think it's a little bit tricky on a 10 scale, with 10 being unforgivable, horrific dumpster fire, and 1 being the easiest person in the world to forgive. 10 out of 10 people right now are thinking of that one person they can't forgive. Totally fair. Totally fair. But I'm the only one that's going to tell you you don't have to forgive the unforgivable. I'm the only one who'll tell you that. Why? Because there's a lot of people, places, and things. I did say places and things. Please don't click off that you can forgive before you even get to that number 10 person. So a few things about forgiveness is just because I forgive you doesn't mean I want a relationship with you. I probably don't, to be honest. And you probably don't deserve my forgiveness. And that's fair. You don't. I'm not forgiving for you. I'm doing it for me. And just because I forgive you doesn't mean I'm giving you a pass all of a sudden. Everybody thinks that. If I forgive you, it means I'm giving in. I'm letting you go. I'm telling you you were right. Absolutely not. They're still wrong. They still have to make amends. You still don't want a relationship with them. You've probably got boundaries in place. Forgiveness, the formal definition for me is I want you out of my head. That's it. I want you out of my head. I don't want to think about you. I don't want to talk about you. And in my world, in my forgiveness system, you don't have to reach out and tell people you're forgiving them. Forgiveness is selfish. It's personal. You can do it alone in a room and nobody has to know. You do it for you. So that being said, if you can forgive dead people, because where they are or are not doesn't matter a lick, because you don't have to tell anybody. If they're alive and well in your head, then it can be forgiven. And you can forgive in things and places as well. I forgave breast cancer.
For the people out there, Katharine, who are waiting on an apology before being able to grant someone or just give forgiveness, what is your advice to them?
I think if you're waiting for an apology, that's a good question. Nobody's ever asked me for that before. I like that. I like the new ones. I'm going to have you put my forgiveness system and I'll go through it really quickly. I want you to sit down with a pen and a piece of paper or a pencil. I don't care. And I want you to write down all the people that you think you need to forgive. The horrific ones will be first. The people you're having trouble with will be first. The people you want an apology from, they're going to be first. But keep going. Go all the way back to grammar school. Write everybody down. Then I want you to rank everybody between 1 and 10. 10 being awful, 1 being easy. And those apology people, they're going to probably be leveled of 7, 8, 9, or 10, right? Because you're waiting. That's how angry you are. You want an apology. I'm not going to give in till I get that apology. So you leave them for last. And then I don't care if you have 20 number 7s. I really don't care. I don't care if you miss a number. Don't care. What I do care about is when you work my system, I want you to start with the easy ones and you work your way up to the horrific ones. So I want you to sit down in a room all by yourself. And here's the hard part. I kind of want your cell phone to be off. I know some of you are twitching at just the thought. I understand that. Then I turn the volume off. Don't put it on vibrate because if it dances on your desk, you're going to want to see who it is. If you hear the thing beeping, you're going to say, ooh, I got to see. I want you completely focused for 20, 30 minutes. Then you can turn the darn thing back on again. And then I want you to look at the first person on the list. Maybe it's a kid in high school that you had a blowout. You were best friends. They stole your sweater. Something happened. Gossip got around. I don't know. It's somebody so easy. Maybe the person who stole your parking space yesterday at the grocery store. You had your blinker on. I'm just saying. That space was yours. You can forgive those easy people, right? And I want you to put your hand in your heart because the words are just for us stupid humans. It's the energy behind the words that means the most. And I want you to imagine the person is in front of you. And if you're forgiving somebody from high school, I want you to see the kid in front of you, not the adult. I want you to talk to the kid. And if you can't imagine the kid in front of you, put a chair in front of you and talk to the chair. That's fine. You could even put their name in the chair if it makes it any better. Okay, that's fine. And the whole magic, the whole secret sauce, the magic pill behind forgiveness and why people don't stay forgiven. You know, they look at me and they say, you know, I did forgive them. Yeah, you did. But you didn't forgive the energy. Science has proven that energy is neither created or destroyed. It just transforms from one thing to another. When you get angry, you think it leaves your mouth and dissipates in the universe. In fact, you don't even think about it at all, do you? It does not. It hangs around your energy field and it's going to stay there until you clear it. And science has also taught us that everything in our world has energy around it, including the microphone I'm speaking into right now. It has an energy field. So my system takes this into an account. So you put your hand in your heart and you say, and I use the name Martha because I don't have a relative named Martha and it's a very safe name. If you have an Aunt Martha and you love her, substitute another one. But if you're looking at the person, let's say their name is Martha from high school, you say, I completely forgive Martha. I forgive the energy around Martha. I completely forgive myself. I forgive the energy around myself. I forgive the energy around the entire relationship. And so it is, oh, amen, go with God, end it any way you like. Then check in with your body. Is that number 1 a 0 now? Fantastic. Cross the name off, go to the next one. Was it a level 3 person and you're still kind of angry? You just can't toss it? Okay, cross off the 3, move it to a 2, wait 24 hours, do it again. And this happened to a really close friend of mine. It was a level 3 person. We did it. She was right in front of me. And I watched her as she got even more angry. She checked in with her body and that 3 turned into a 10. She got more angry. Why? Because your brain is like an overprotective best friend and it protects you. And there's a closet in the back of your head and there's a padlock on it. And there's a movie playing in the back of your head. And you would turn the movie off if you knew it was there, but you don't even know it's there. And what you just did is you said the magic formula and the doors open and the stuff in the closet came out. And she started to remember things that she never remembered before. So we crossed the name off. We crossed the number 3 out. We made that a 10 and put them to the end of the list because we do the hard ones last. And that's the basics of the system. The unforgivables, that's a different kettle of fish. And I could walk you through that one as well if you want me to.
Yes, I have so many questions. I do want to address what you just said.
Mhm.
I have to ask this first. So, how did you get to this point, Katharine, of forgiveness?
The fact that I call myself a transformation coach and I teach forgiveness implies that the universe has given me almost too many things to forgive.
Yes.
I have had a lot of things to forgive in my life, and I'm also been sober for 35 years. And back in the day, 35 years ago, they want you to go through the steps in AA, Alcoholics Anonymous. And I was very shy, and I'm an extroverted introvert, they tell me now. But back then, I was just really shy. So we didn't have tech back then. If I could have texted these people, brilliant. We didn't have that. We didn't have the technology. You had two choices. You could either call them up on the phone and risk getting yelled at, thank you very much, or you could see them in person, which was worse, and risk getting yelled at. I didn't want to do either one. So I stumbled off accidentally into the first part of my system. So I forgave people in my apartment, and I didn't tell anybody I did it, but I started to feel better. And my life, instead of looking at all the bad things that had happened in my life, all of a sudden my perspective started to change. And when I went into business and I forgave more people, my bottom line, money started to flow again. My health started to come back. I was sick and tired of being sick and tired, because that's what anger does to you. You get sick, you get tired, your friends go down to one. I started making friends again. My life opened up. But it wasn't until 2020 when I met my partner, Katie Nall, who's my co-author in the second book in the series, that we finally figured out what the special sauce is, and we figured out the step-by-step system that we're teaching today.
I think it's so interesting how people become who they are today in this moment and the work that they're doing. I think it's so important to understand that background history. Now, Katharine, let's talk about the unforgivable. I
Okay.
think that's so important. How does a person work through that, or if at all? There's some people that, hey, maybe they just don't deserve forgiveness. We don't deserve to give them forgiveness. What do you have to say about that?
They don't deserve your forgiveness. You're right. They don't. You're not doing it for them. You're doing it for you. You don't even have to tell them you're doing it. They don't deserve your forgiveness. They're still horrible. They're still wrong. And you still have boundaries in place, and you still don't want a relationship with them. That's fine. You're not doing it for them. You're doing it because their name is living rent-free in your head, and you want to evict them. You want the name out of your head. And you've forgiven when you can look at their name and it doesn't have an emotional charge anymore. That's how you know. You're never going to forget. Listen, I'm from New York City, and I can guarantee you with 100% certainty, and I'm speaking for everybody in New York, none of us forgive. I mean, I said that wrong. No, none of us will forget. We don't forgive and forget. We don't forget ever. But what I can promise you is neutrality. I can promise you that once you forgive, it will remove the emotional charge. Now, I did say you can forgive people, places, and things. So one of the things on your list of things to forgive is more than likely cancer. So before we get to the cancer part, let's say we'll take one of my own number 10s. Let's take the bully in school, in grammar school. I was not ready to forgive the bully. And it's never mind how many years later. It was before the turn of the century. Boy, I sound ancient. I hated saying it that way. Back in the 1900s. I wasn't ready to forgive the bully. In fact, I was so angry, I didn't even want to forgive the energy around the bully. So I picked apart the memory. I'm actually serious. I forgave the school that I went to, the building itself, the energy around the building. I forgave the desk, the table, the chair, the floor. I forgave the playground. I forgave the kids that stood around and didn't help. And the energy around all of these things. I forgave New York City. I forgave 1974, which is the year I was really bullied and I tried to commit suicide. I actually sat down and said, I completely forgive 1974 and the energy around 1974. And I haven't forgiven the bully yet, but I have taken out a lot of the emotional baggage from the memory. So that number 10 might be down to a 9 now. I forgave cancer. I forgave chemotherapy. I forgave radiation. I forgave the chemo chair. I forgave the chemo drip. I forgave that red little bottle of chemo, which was horrific. I forgave the neuroelastic shot. I forgave the nurses and the doctors. I forgave that slab, that table that you sit on in radiation. I forgave the nurses for asking for my birthday every day for 3 weeks. Every day. And they knew what my birthday was. Yeah. So I started to change the year because I'm a brat. And they said, well, what year were you born? And I said 1951. And they leveled me a look. And I said, if you think I'm 60, I'm 64 now. Back then I was 50. But if you think I'm 60, how good do I look right now? Everybody wants to go forward. No, go back, man. They'll think, tell them you're 102. You'll look great for your age. So I used to change the date, but I forgave that. I forgave the people in the waiting room. I forgave the woman in the grocery store who I was bald as a cue ball, and thought I looked good that day. I had a scarf. I actually tried that day. She took one look at me. She put her hand on my shoulder, and she said, "I'm so sorry, dear. How much time do you have left?"
Oh, wow.
And I looked at her and I said, I might drop dead now. You might want to take a step back.
Good one.
I know I shouldn't have done it, but it was
She
rude.
had it
Darn
coming.
it.
I'm
She had
sorry.
that coming. But I forgave her and I forgave the energy around her and I forgave all of it. I actually forgave all of these objects. I forgave my car for taking me to chemo. I forgave myself for getting cancer and all the things that might have contributed. I forgave my mother who died of cancer and breast cancer. I forgave her. I forgave it all. And the more I forgave and the happier I got and the more I started to feel better. I wasn't as tired. Coffee tasted better and things started to click a little bit more. It really will change your life. And if you can't forgive cancer or you can't forgive the bully, pick apart the memory and forgive other things within the memory. If it's something horrific, not everything is forgivable in this world, people. There are things that are unforgivable. I don't care what anybody else says. There are unforgivable people in this world. They exist. So pick apart the memory and forgive everything else. Forgive the bed, the table, the chair. Forgive the park. Forgive yourself for getting in the car. Forgive yourself for the words that you said that got you there. Forgive yourself for drinking that drink that you shouldn't have drank. There's always things in the memory you can forgive. And that'll be just enough for you to walk around that horrible brick wall you've all found yourself against and keep going.
Thank
Forgive
you.
yourself.
Thank you for sharing that, Catherine. Such powerful words. What I hear you're saying in all of this, Catherine, is that you have the power within you to change your life, to
Mm-hmm.
decide to think differently about things. One thing that you've mentioned a lot so far in our conversation is energy. What do you have to say, Catherine, to the people who are not aware of energy or tuned into energy or even believe in energy? How can forgiveness work for them?
The law of forgiveness is the same thing as gravity. You can say, I don't believe in gravity. Okay, gravity doesn't care. It's still going to work. Okay, well, I don't want to call it gravity. I'm going to call it the law of keeping Catherine on the planet. Still doesn't care. Still going to work. This is going to work, whether you believe in it or not. The forgiveness energy it's real. Here's a true story that will cause people's brains to bleed. I apologize. It's a little brain stretching for you. I forgave a level one person. Went to school with her long back in the 70s. Hadn't talked to her in as many years, not kidding. And I thought, this is easy. I couldn't even remember what we were angry at. I went to high school with her. And I thought, I can forgive this person. Did one round of my mantra, and sure enough, it was tossed and I forgave her. I could look at her name and there was no energy. So I went about my day after I did it. 2 hours later, she calls me up on the phone. Yeah, I had the same reaction too. And I'm a concierge by trade. I retired in 2020, but I've been teaching concierge and customer service for 20 plus years. So I was really good at masking my emotions. So we said all the right words and we made all the right noises and we reminisced, but I'm a curious little bear. I had to know. And I said, after all these years, why did you call me today of all days? She said, it's the darndest thing. 2 hours ago, which was exactly when I was saying my mantra, a figurine you gave me in high school fell off my shelf, landed in the middle of my floor, and I saw it and thought I should give you a call. This is powerful energy. It is real. And if it has the power to move a figurine across 700 miles for a level one person, what do you think it's going to do for the higher numbers, like the eights, nines, and tens? And what do you think it's going to do to your life? You're going to start noticing opportunities. Why aren't you noticing it now? Because you're paying attention to your stuff. Now, I know you can't see me, but if I hold a cup off to the side of my body, you can say that this cup that I'm holding represents anger and bitterness and all the nasty stuff. But when you first get cancer and you first get angry, it's easy to hold it off to the side once you go through all the stages of emotions. But the longer you hold on to something and don't release any of the anger or anything in it, it's going to start to really take over your life. And eventually it's going to start permeating your conversations. And eventually it's going to be all you can see. I'm holding the cup in front of my face now. And I can't even see you anymore because all I can see is my resentment and my anger. I'm missing opportunities. I'm missing healing modalities. I'm missing studies that might cure me. I am missing money-making opportunities, new relationships. That's because I'm so focused on the anger. So if you're getting hung up because you don't believe in energy, that's fine. It's going to work whether you believe in it or not. Believe in the power of forgiveness, which is all over the Bible, by the way, in every place you can find. Jesus said, it's been a long time since I've read the Bible, and I've read it cover to cover. I think he said you must forgive them 70 times 7, which translated means you got to do it a lot. And that's why you have to, I only really want you to do 10 a night. I want you to do it before bed because your body heals itself when it's sleeping, because most of you are going to feel really tired after you forgive. So do it after dinner when you know you're going to be able to sleep. And do as I say, not as I did.
As I
Well,
did.
I'm a little bit of an overachiever, and I used myself as a guinea pig. And I did this. I did exactly what I'm telling you, but I'm an overachiever. So I had 50 people on my list, and I put down everybody. And I thought, this is going to be great. I'm going to forgive everybody all at once. And by tomorrow morning, I'm going to be like a phoenix rising from the ashes. I'm going to be a brand new person. Didn't end up the way I thought it would. Did forgive many people on the list. Also ended up in bed with what everybody thought was a stomach flu for 3 days. A Native American Indian told me maybe 20 plus years ago that it was energy sickness, which means, remember the Japanese water study and all those water cells? Well, those dark water cells have to go somewhere, don't they? Your body can mitigate that anger when you're sleeping, but not for 50 people. I
Yes.
overdid it. So it took my body 3 days to recover. Now, most people won't be in the bathroom. If you are, you didn't eat a bad piece of bad fish. It's just your body getting rid of decades of anger, getting rid of the sludge, shall we speak. It's going to make you healthier. It's going to make you feel lighter. Most people just get really, really tired. Some people get thirsty. Some people actually feel the energy shift. If you're really sensitive to energy, you might actually, if you're empathic, you might feel the energy shift. But never do more than 10 at a time. And my friend Katie will tell you, if you're doing a high level person, meaning a 7, 8, 9, or 10 level person, 1 a night. Do not be like Katharine. Don't do them all at once and make yourself terribly sick.
Great tips, Catherine. Thank you. This is such an interesting topic. You have been talking about forgiving others.
Mhm.
What about forgiving yourself?
This is the first book of 3, and my friend Katie is co-authoring the second book, and it'll be out in the fall. It's on her desk now. But here's what I learned, and here's how I learned it. My father, who's been dead for years, he's been dead for over 30 years, he was one of my number 10s. And it took me, this is a marathon, not a sprint. It took me months to get him from a 10 down to a forgivable level, which was like a 1, a 2, or 3. And I was able to forgive him once I got him down to those lower numbers, but it took a long time for me to get him there and to go through all those emotions and memories. This really is a marathon. But once I got down there, somebody asked me $1 million question randomly. They said, what's the one thing you regret in your life? And I thought about it, and I thought, I regret not letting my father walk me down the aisle 33 years ago because I was angry at him. And I thought, if I had a do-over, I mean, yes, he was a horrible guy back then, but that was just mean, in my opinion. And then I thought about it, and I thought, I'll bet you I said a lot of stuff to him that hurt, because that's what we do when we're yelling at people. You say things that are hurtful and you do it purposely. So I realized that once I got dad from 10 to a 1, I had to go the other way. I needed him to forgive me for all the stuff I did to him. So I wrote a second list. And this time, instead of writing down the people that I wanted to forgive, I wrote a list of the people I wanted to forgive me, from childhood all the way to present day. Then I rated them from 1 to 10, and I began the journey of going up that list. And I flipped the mantra. Instead of saying I completely forgive my dad and the energy around my dad, I actually flipped and said my dad completely forgives me and the energy around me. I flipped it. So the book 2 in this series is all about that particular. It's about how to forgive yourself. Because quite often when you write your list, your name is going to come up in the top 10. Many of us put our own names right up there, and we are our own worst enemy. I kicked myself for years because I got cancer, and I'm one of the breadwinners of the family, and our finances took a huge hit. And my sons almost flunked out of school because, mom got cancer, and I kicked myself and blamed myself for years. And it took a long time for me to forgive myself and forgive cancer. It took a long time. So this is not something that you're going to be able to do overnight, but it is life changing once you do it. Absolutely life changing.
I think it's so important to really think about forgiving ourselves as well, because, like you said, we can be the hardest on ourselves.
Yeah.
And sometimes for things that are out of our control. And so just being able to take a step back and say, hey, I deserve forgiveness. I deserve to forgive myself as well. I think that is so healing. When you made that decision, Katharine, to forgive yourself, did you notice any changes like in your emotional or physical well-being?
Well, when you're forgiving yourself, it's like being on an airplane and putting your own oxygen mask on first. Then you can help your kids, then you can help your family. And when I started to forgive myself, I know this sounds a little bit breathe, but it's almost like I could breathe again.
Mhm.
I could breathe again. I don't get as sick as anymore, contrary to my health records, which looks like I'm very sickly. I'm actually not. I'm very healthy. And I've been cancer free for 13 years now. And I noticed my perspective was different about life. I can look back in my childhood, instead of pulling out the nasty stories, instead of pulling out the cancer nasty stories, I have a different perspective now. And I talk about the love that helped that kid way back when. I talk about the love that was surrounding me when I was going through my cancer journey. I have a different perspective of life now. So I go in and I see the spark in people as opposed to the non-spark in people, as it were. So it changes your perspective. You're not getting as sick and tired anymore, and you're not having these horrible thoughts. You're not having the why me's. But women especially have this little problem with the word worthy.
Mhm.
And my message for everybody out there listening is you are worthy enough to do this. You are worthy enough to live a life of joy and health and peace. You are worthy enough to live a life of happiness and have a happy marriage. It is your birthright. But as you go through this system, there's some things that are going to happen to you. Like energy attracts like energy. So you will attract like-minded people in your life. Brilliant. That's what we want. New besties that are good for us. Yeah, bring it on. Okay, but you're also going to have the opposite. People are going to bolt out of your life like jackrabbits. That happened to me. I've written a bunch of books. One was about my cancer journey called Rainbows and Banana Peels. And I had a bunch of jackrabbits. When 1 minute they're in your life and the next minute, boom, they're gone and they've ghosted you. You don't know why. And then you have the people who look at you and say, I don't want you to change. I like the old broken person. I like the old angry, resentful person. So they're going to try and sabotage you because they want the old you back because it makes them feel better. So, there's a very, very, very famous quote that says by Jim Rohn, you are the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So once you go on your forgiveness journey and or if you're on your cancer journey, it's your choice who you let back into your life. Those jackrabbits, some of them will circle back and say, knock, knock. Here I am again. It's your choice whether you want to take them back or not. You get to choose.
I love that because it's just so relatable as someone who's experienced cancer. And looking back, it's really a trip, but
It
you
is.
captured it so well. And congratulations on 13 years of
Oh, thank you.
survivorship. That is a
Thank you.
blessing. Katharine, given the intensity of your cancer treatment, which, as you mentioned earlier, included chemotherapy, radiation,
Mhm.
10 operations, it's very understandable if, you felt anger, resentment, and frustration. How did you find peace in all of that, if you found peace at all?
I paused. I know that sounds weird, but I've been doing it since college. Not everybody has time or the mental bandwidth to meditate, especially if you only got one brain cell left and that poor brain cell is blinking. Not every not everybody has a brain that you can just turn off. So I pause. And it's like it's a 10-second breather. When you have your hand on the doorknob and you just stand there and you breathe and you just center yourself for a few minutes, you pause. You're in the ladies' room and everybody's out there and you're about to go on chemo, whatever it is, you pause and you give yourself just a second to just be in the moment. You're healthy right then. You are on the planet, even if you're not healthy. I'm alive right now. Positive things you can say to yourself. You pause. And the power of the pause is really one of the things that got me through. I can't tell you how many horrific things it's gotten me through since college. I pause. Now I try and meditate, but I'm one of those people. It's very hard to get my brain to shut up, so to speak, to be blunt. So the power of the pause has been my best friend for a long time.
I really like the pause. It has helped
Hmm.
me tremendously too. So
Yep.
I
Mhm.
understand 1000% the power of it. What I would like to know, Katharine, is what other times in your life have you had to pause and just really not react, not overreact? What are some other times, kind of related to your experiences over time that really helped you get to where you are today?
Well, before college, before I learned how to pause, it was hard because I had an alcoholic family. I tried to commit suicide in the eighth grade and I was bullied. So it was very hard. But once I figured out the pause, I have had financial troubles. We've had medical issues. I've had deaths in the family. I've had trouble with business. And you can't control what life throws at you, but
Mhm.
you sure can control how you get through it. So when the you know what hits the fan, I paused and I thought about it. And you think about what's important. You think about that I'm still here. I've got a roof over my head. I've got access to food and water. And I've got a soft bed to sleep in. And I practiced gratitude every night before I went to bed. I wrote down the three things I was most grateful for that evening or that day. Sometimes I wrote down the fact that coffee exists is the only thing I'm grateful for today. Because sometimes that's all you can do.
That's
And
something.
it's something. Or the fact that I have clean running water coming out of the pipes. Some days that's all I could come up with. That's it. That's all we got. That's my little blinking brain cell. That's all I got. So practicing the pause and having gratitude got me through a lot of stuff. I mean, gratitude for the medicines that were there. The medicine Herceptin actually is probably the one that saved my life. But gratitude that even though I had $1.50 in the bank and, people were knocking at the door, I still had a roof over my head. I had family that was helping, that little bird in my shoulder, I was listening to it. So it's the power of the pause and it's the power of being grateful for what you have. That's what got me through many, many, many a hard time.
Thank you for sharing that, Katharine, because I think it's so important for even younger people to hear all of these things because they have so much more life ahead of them. And
Yeah,
just being able to hear that someone who is more mature has gone through all these things, very
all of them.
hard things, and you're
All
still
of them.
here. You're laughing, you're joking, you're vibrant.
Still here. And, forgiving the easy stuff opens your brain up. Forget the number 10s. It may take you a year to be able to even entertain that you need to forgive that person. That's fine. I'm going to go to my grave. I'm never going to forgive this person. Okay, that's fine. Let's save them for last. And it might be 5 years from now. It's fine. Forgive the people you rate from 1 to 9. Forgive the people you rate from 1 to 3. It's going to start the process. It's going to make you feel better. Can't forgive cancer? Okay, make that one last. I know it's an object, but make it last. This journey, if I had learned this younger, it would have saved me a lot of heartache, to be honest, and I probably would have been healthier if I had been able to release all that toxic anger out of my body. It would have been much easier. But, give yourself permission to be healthy. I know that sounds strange, but give
Mhm.
yourself permission to be healthy. There are so many people that are their story. If I lose my story, who am I? It's a very scary thing. I had a man come up to me once. I'm not bashing men, but it just happened to be a man who said this to me. He came up to me. This is true. And remember, I'm a concierge, so I'm incapable of lying. That's why everybody wants to play poker with me. But I'm a good concierge and I can mask my emotions to an extent. And he came up to me and he said, I don't agree with you. Okay. What don't you agree with? And he said, well, I've made a lot of money in my life. I smiled and in my head I'm going, okay, so? And he said, I have a lot of successful businesses. Good for you. Is there a point here? And I've had many successful marriages. I have questions on that one, but we're not going to go there. I have questions,
I'm
but
with you.
congratulations, I said. And he said, and I've done it on my bed of hate. I have built my brand. I have built my businesses and I have lots of houses. Good for you. And I've built it on my pain and I've turned it into my brand. Okay, let's talk about that. I'll play. Sure, let's play. There are two trains you can take. You could take the express or the local. The local is going to stop at every single solitary stop. It's like going into a hotel elevator. Everybody's had this happen to them. You're going up to the 35th floor, and some kid has pressed every button between 2 and 35, and you got to stop at every single floor. By the time you get to your destination, you're on your hands and knees crawling out of there crying for your mama because you're just done. And that's the same thing with the local train. You're going to stop at every stop. You're going to be bloodied. You're going to fall down. It's going to be hard. Wouldn't you rather get off that train and hop on the express? The train that's filled with love and forgiveness and peace and joy. And here's a new one, happiness. Gets you twice as far, twice as fast as that little local train. You can get there on that train. He did. You can. But you'll be a shadow of your former self.
So important. It really is. Thank you, Catherine. One thing I think is so important to talk about, to really circle back on, is your journey also includes 35 years of sobriety.
Mhm.
And that is another path that often requires a lot of emotional work and self-compassion. How have the lessons you've learned about forgiveness and emotional resolution helped you with your sobriety and then in your cancer journey? How are those intertwined?
Once I started to forgive people, my need to drink evaporated because I didn't need to forget. I didn't need to drink to forget what I was trying to forget from my childhood or forget my parents or forget whatever it was I was going through at a time. Forgiveness will remove the need, but you still have to do the work. I mean, if you're addicted to drugs and alcohol, you're still going to have to go to rehab. You're still going to have to do the work to get yourself off to addicted, whether you're addicted to drugs, alcohol, sex, I don't care what you're addicted to, but you're still going to have to do the work. But if you practice forgiveness, that's going to remove a lot of the anger that caused what you're doing. So you're going to start to feel better. I quit drinking because I didn't want to become like my parents. That's why I did it. And it was the only New Year's resolution I actually ever kept.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been 35 years. But, I have my stories. I mean, getting sick on the assistant dean of students in college, I suppose that wasn't a good thing to do. For some reason, she just didn't like me for the next 4 years. I just don't know why. That
Mm-hmm.
shocker. But I quit because my parents were horrible. They were horrible drinkers, and I didn't want to raise my kids the way I was raised. But, gratitude and the more people I forgave, the more my life opened up. I met people that were just absolutely beautiful souls, just magically. I started to learn new things. My brain started to open up. I started to read more. I noticed more. I felt more. And I spent my childhood sick as a dog. I always had stomach issues. I got every Tom, Dick, and Harry germ that came down the street, I would catch it. And once I started forgiving and I started getting my head together, it all stopped. I started to get healthy again. I started to like life again. And things started to look brighter to me. And I know I sound like a Hallmark movie, but it's true. So just start. And I'm not even telling you to do those big, horrible, I was raped in Central Park stories. Sorry, I'm just trying to think of a bad example. I'm talking about the parking spots. I'm talking about you can forgive the people, your football team lost the Super Bowl. Come on, you can forgive them, right? You can forgive anything. You can forgive politicians, dare I say, not going there. You can forgive the war in the Middle East. What's it going to do for the war in the Middle East? Absolutely nothing, but it's going to do wonders for you. So if you're sitting there thinking, if you're still fighting me on this, saying, I have nobody to forgive, I'm good. I've run into so many people saying that. I want you to repeat after me and saying the following sentence 3 times a night for 7 days in a row. You probably won't even need to say it for 7 days. I want you to say, I completely forgive myself for not being able to forgive and the energy around this thought. Say that 3 times a night for the next week. Here's what's going to happen. First night, this stuff doesn't work. You're going to go to sleep. Second night, you might still be saying this stuff doesn't work. But by night 2, 3, or 4, your brain is going to start spitting out people that you might want to forgive. You're going to start to remember things. And before you know it, you're going to be writing your list. But forgive the easy ones first. Don't forgive your business partner yet. And if you can't forgive your business partner, forgive the energy around your business partner. Don't forgive the business partner. Say, I completely forgive the energy around Tom, and I completely forgive the energy around me. Don't forgive him. That's all you have to do. Or pick apart the memory. You don't have to forgive them. You forgive everything else. It's going to open up your life.
Please take to heart everything that Katharine is sharing, especially if you're just ill all the time. You're
Mhm.
not able to focus, you're angry, you're upset all the time, you're always blaming others. I really believe that what Katharine has shared today can really help you. So please listen back to this as many times, take notes, do whatever you need to do, because this is powerful information. And I know this because throughout the conversation, what Katharine has shared has taken me back to time and time again with each story is that the mind and the body work together. And so
Mhm.
whatever's going on in your head is going to show up in your body. And so if
Sure.
that's not enough for you, to start to do this work, I don't know what else is. So honor what Katharine is sharing with us. And she's been through it, she's done it. Katharine, what does the
Mhm.
phrase navigating cancer together mean to you, having survived breast cancer?
Sometimes it takes a village, and it really helps to have good people around you. And if you don't have good people around you and you're going through it alone, you have the nurses and doctors who will circle the wagons around you because they're beautiful people and it's what they do. Navigating cancer means you're in the boat and a bunch of people are there with you. You're never alone. Trust that little bird in your shoulder and do what it says to do because it's never wrong. Trust your intuition. It saved my life and three times. Not that I'm counting, but three times. Trust it.
Thank you, Katharine. I'm so glad that you got through those 3 times and you're still here with us. Before we end, please tell the audience where they can find you. Also, any closing words that you would like to share or anything that you like to share that you haven't had an opportunity to share.
If you want a private session, want any of my books, they are on Amazon, but you can also go to katharinegiovanni.com. And Catherine, thanks to my mother, is spelled a little odd. Thank you, Mom. And it's Katharine Giovanni.com. I do have the audiobook available for this book, as well as two of my books have the audiobook available. They're both available on Amazon in case you don't want to read it. But my advice to everybody, especially when you're navigating cancer, is Valerie Harper. I wish I could take credit for this saying. It is not mine. It is Valerie Harper, who was diagnosed with brain cancer, said she'd be dead by Christmas, and went on to live, like, I can't remember exactly how many years, but it's like 5, 6, 7 years beyond her death sentence. And she was the one that said, don't die until you're dead. And she was right. Don't die until you're dead. There's always hope. There's always something to fight for, and you're alive today. So forgive the people in your life and the situations. And no matter how much time we have, because we're all going to go eventually, it's going to make the time we all have better.
Wise words. Thank you for your time and all of the powerful information that you've shared today. If people take what you've shared and they do the work with it, transformation can happen in their lives. And so listen to what Katharine has shared. Reach out to her to schedule a call or consultation with her because it's time to get that life that you want. And this is part of the work that you have to do to get that life that you want, that quality of life that you want. This episode is being released in the thick of summer. So please make some time to do something for yourself, to create healing for yourself. You have someone like Katharine out there who can help you do this important work. Just reach out if you have any questions. And again, Katharine, thank you so much for your time and your wisdom. It's an honor to have you.
Oh, it was an honor being here. Thanks so much.
Valued listeners, I hope you have enjoyed and found the information that Katharine has shared today as insightful as I have. Katharine shared powerful insights on the how of forgiveness. What's one belief or understanding you previously held about forgiveness that was challenged or expanded by her perspective? And how might that shift influence your own approach to past hurts? Let me know by sending an email to nctpodcastfan@gmail.com or leave a comment on this episode on Spotify. I may read some of your responses on a future episode. If you have not done so already, please be sure to sign up for the wait list for Navigating Cancer Together, community forum where it is a safe place for cancer patients, survivor thrivers, and caregivers to have a platform where we can all come together to share inspiration, helpful information, and in a private and safe space. To be notified when the online forum is ready and up and running, sign up to be on the wait list at ontheotherside.life/forum waitlist. I will have that information in the show notes. I would like to thank Leia's Haven Calming Health and Wellness Coaching for sponsoring this episode. Leia's Haven provides health and wellness coaching to nurses and other healthcare or medical professionals who are experiencing burnout. Leia's Haven helps you go from burnout to balance so you can thrive in your career again, as well as your life. Find more about Leia's Haven in the show notes for this episode. Before we end, I would like to give a shout out to the Navigating Cancer Together community and valued listeners. Thank you for joining us for this episode. That is it for this Wednesday. And until next time, let's keep navigating cancer together. Take care.